I had a bestie who always pretended to treat me very well. I married my rich boyfriend and told me that all the rich men were bad, so she came to suffer for me. She sold all her wedding jewelry and told her husband that she gave them to me as a birthday gift. She maxed out her husband's secondary card and said that she did that to pay off the gambling debt for me. When she was pregnant, she had an affair with her husband's younger brother resulting in a hemorrhage. Said that I was fooling around with riffraff. She kindly tried to dissuade me, but I pushed her down and caused her to miscarry. In the end, her husband sent me to the north of Burma to atone for my sins. I was humiliated to death by her lover. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day of her miscarriage. Every time Jane went on a date with her lover, she would tell her husband that she was with me. Sometimes I was heartbroken and needed company, sometimes I was in a bad mood because of gambling. He had even used the reason that I needed her to accompany me to the hospital to get an abortion. If George hadn't come to me in my previous life and scolded me for my crimes, I wouldn't know that I had experienced so much. At that moment, George's phone kept ringing. As soon as I picked up the phone, George's angry voice exploded in my ear. "Nico, why did you keep Jane with you? I've tolerated you for a long time. Can you stop being so dependent? Do you think the whole world will serve you alone? Jane is married, and she is still pregnant. Can you stop relying on her? Don't you know how annoying you are? Are you holding a grudge because I dumped you? Jane is very ingenuous. If you use her again, don't blame me for being rude to you. Hurry up and send her back." George scolded me loudly in a bad temper. It seemed that he couldn't stand me anymore. In fact, when I was dating George, I felt that he was a very gentle person. But Jane always said that men were good at pretending. Every time George treated me well, she would insist that he must have done something wrong to me. As a result, while I was in a cold war with George, she was gentle and considerate as his confidant. As she comforted him, she made up a lot of stories about me. With Jane's help, George and I gradually drifted away from each other. If it wasn't for the fact that I had accidentally seen Jane's feet trapped around his calf like a water snake, I might be glad that I had a bestie who could help me recognize jerks. Not long after, she got married to George. Since then, I kept a distance from them. But George didn't think so. I was often questioned by him. My life apart from work was spent explaining Jane's whereabouts. But in fact, I didn't know what Jane was doing. I could only use Jane as an excuse to brush him off. That day George came to my house, scolded me angrily, and kidnapped me to the north of Myanmar with a sack. Only then did I realize that I had become a scapegoat. Thinking back to George's revenge in my past life and Jane and her lover's means of silencing me, I couldn't help but feel a surge of anger. "George, I would tear your family apart with your own hands today." I sneered and answered happily. Jane said that she was playing poker and didn't want to go back. "Why don't you come and pick her up? We're at the same hotel we always stay at." I hung up the phone and turned it off. I didn't want to waste any more time talking to George. But soon, there was a knock on the door. When I opened the door, I was knocked back by a huge force outside the door. Before I could react, several bodyguards suddenly held me down. As for George, he'd walked into my house with heavy steps and looked for Jane roughly. He turned the whole room upside down. But he didn't find anything. "Why did you say she was playing poker at the hotel? I've been standing downstairs for a long time, and the lights in your house have been on."